Welcome back now to that contentious lawsuit in Madison.
A Dane County judge rejecting the city's attempt to dismiss it, all fallout from Madison failing to count nearly 200 absentee ballots in the November 2024 election. One of those voters is now suing, seeking monetary damages. In response, the city has argued absentee voting is a privilege, not a constitutional right, setting off a firestorm of criticism from the governor to the Elections Commission.
We have both sides this Sunday. First, our new interview with Madison Mayor Satya Rhodes-Conway. I want to first start by the voter who is suing the city. She had a piece in the Cap Times, and she wrote this past week, first to remind the city and mayor, I have a name, this is my lawsuit, and the lawsuit of nearly 200 other voters that you disenfranchised. And this lawsuit is not about money, it's about the right to vote. I'm curious your response when you read that.
Well, I mean, my first response is, I think what it's always been, which is, I am so deeply sorry and frankly frustrated and angry that her ballot wasn't counted. And that should never have happened. And, you know, myself, the city, you know, we've reached out, we've apologized, and we are taking numerous steps to make sure that that never happens again in Madison. And I mean, like soup to nuts, we have gone through the process, and our new clerk is being really diligent about ballot security and making sure that we have triple checks and fail safes, and we are making sure that at every step of the way we know where ballots are and where they should be, and that they're getting delivered to be counted. So I feel like, yes, we made a mistake. Absolutely, we own that, and we are doing everything we can to improve our processes to make sure it never happens again.
But you don't believe these voters should be compensated for that mistake?
I don't. And I mean, I absolutely get the desire to make sure that this doesn't ever happen again. Absolutely, I understand that. And I agree. And that's the work that we're doing. What I don't understand is why that should result in municipalities having to pay money for a mistake. And part of my concern here is the precedent. I mean, certainly I'm concerned for protecting taxpayer dollars, right? Because if everything goes the way that this suit is suggesting, the city of Madison would have to pay upwards of $30 million. We don't have $30 million in our budget, right? And if we did, I would want to spend it on the clerk's office, right? And improving the clerk's office and our processes and our elections. But that aside, I think it's a dangerous precedent, because what could happen is if clerk's offices around the state feel like if we make a mistake with an absentee ballot, we're going to get sued and have to pay millions of dollars, I worry that they are going to say, okay, we're just not going to do absentee voting then.
It seems like in the process you've angered a good number of Democrats in the legal argument, saying that absentee voting is a privilege.
So I want to be clear. I have never said that absentee voting is a privilege. I do not believe that absentee voting is a privilege. I understand, and I'm not a lawyer, but I understand that the state law says that absentee voting is a privilege. I disagree with that. I think the law should change. I hope the legislature will revisit that. But we're not saying that, and our stance as the city of Madison has not changed with respect to absentee voting. We believe in it, we believe those ballots should be counted, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that they will be.
So is it use that argument to ensure you win in court?
So again, saying that that's what the state law says does not equate to us believing that that's right. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how to write a legal brief or the basis of why that's an important thing to mention, but it doesn't mean that I or the city of Madison believes that absentee voting is anything other than a right.
You mentioned what the commission said in terms of the new clerk and complying and working with the commission. At the same time, Ann Jacobs, the Democrat and chair of the commission, went online yesterday, the other day, and said this week the city and the mayor is continuing to avoid real accountability about what happened. You don't want voters to have any remedy or think that people who vote absentee have a right to have their ballots counted. She said she is baffled still.
None of that is true. It's just not. We've already taken responsibility. We've accepted accountability. We've complied with everything WAC wants us to do and more. And we will continue to iterate and improve to make voting safe and secure for everyone, regardless of how they want to do it. And to say that we don't want accountability or that we don't care or that we don't support voting, that's just patently false. And you don't have to believe me. Like, our actions prove that out. We are showing every day that we believe that every single eligible voter in the city of Madison should be able to vote in a way that is safe and convenient for them.
And with that, let's bring in Scott Thompson, an attorney with Law Forward, representing the Madison voter who's suing. Scott, good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's start with just your reaction to what we heard from the mayor there.
So I would say it's quite the oversimplification to suggest that either this case is just about money or that we should be ignoring what's on the court record. This case is about the right to vote for the 193 voters whose ballots were not counted. And no matter what people are saying publicly, on the court record where it mattered, there were arguments that when absentee ballots are not counted, it doesn't violate voters' right to vote. And that's just plain wrong.
To the mayor's point, the city has acknowledged the mistake. She says that they've owned up to it. She's apologized as well. Why should they have to pay potentially millions of dollars on top of that?
Well, I think in many ways this is a really unique case, but in other ways it's like many others. When the government takes away someone's constitutional rights, especially the fundamental democracy right, the right to vote, lawsuits follow. And really, this is no different. I think these voters, frankly, are heroes. We don't know who they voted for. We really don't care. Our message, though, is that no matter where you vote, your vote has value, the right to vote has value, and if it's taken away, there's going to be a lawsuit.
Do you share the mayor's concerns that if you are successful in this will spook clerks and maybe they'll just stop offering absentee voting?
No. First of all, municipal clerks are some of the most hard-working officials in our democracy. We rely on them. They do a great job. We are not aware that the type of mass disenfranchisement that occurred in Madison, where 193 ballots were found with enough time to count them, but were still left out of the official tally, we're not aware of that ever happening before. We trust our clerks. But at the same time, with the situation, with the volume, with the magnitude that this one has, it's really important that we send a message.
If you are successful, are you concerned that that would open the floodgates for Wisconsin voters to sue clerks when there are mistakes that come up, clerical mistakes like that?
So I'm not concerned about it. Obviously, we are suing in that fashion. But as the court recognized in our case just earlier this week, this type of lawsuit has been authorized under Wisconsin law for like 150 years. So again, on some level, this case is new. On some level, it's familiar.
At what point does an election mistake equate to potentially millions of dollars in payouts?
So exactly where the line is, you're always going to have trouble with a lawyer to really draw it for you. But I can say in this case, if you just look at the facts, it seems pretty clear to me that this is such a case. Again, it wasn't just one vote, and it wasn't as though a single vote wasn't seen. Again, 193 votes were found with enough time to count them, but they didn't do anything. That is not enough. That is the type of behavior that is going to be part of a lawsuit.
This is a crystal ball question, but how do you anticipate this case ends?
Well, I think we're going to win. People in Wisconsin care about the right to vote. Our Constitution is unique. It protects the right to vote more strongly than the federal Constitution. It means a lot in our state when we do our civic duty and we vote.
Any situation that you see a settlement in this case before trial?
I can never predict the future, and I am loath to do so in my own lawsuits. But I will say this, I recognize that the city of Madison has been a longtime steward of the right to vote. We are not suggesting anything different than that. But in this instance, there was a big problem. 193 votes were not counted. And so, however this case sorts out, the most important thing is just making sure that the message is clear. The vote has value, and it has a place in our Constitution and in our courts.
Scott Thompson, attorney with Law Forward, representing the Madison voters suing. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Up next, the latest from Washington.